I was like, I think Natty's doing cardio or something. It makes no difference to me. I'm on anyway, so just to let you know. You got a bra on? Okay. Um, no, I just heard all this trotting, and I thought figured maybe she might have just been doing, maybe it was gym class or something. I know. All right, so um, I wanted to talk about. Hey, Cal, how you doing today? Happy New Year. Um, I guess I got to still say that for about another what 6 days. I usually say it till about the 10th, maybe 15th of the month. I say Happy New Year. After that, I don't say it. So I'm gonna say Happy New Year to you. Uh, I wanted to. What's up, Cuz? Happy New Year. I've already talked to you, so but Happy New Year to you too. Um, I am. I'm confused as to what a lot of people are out here doing with their children, and knowing that we're in the midst of a pandemic and it's slowed everybody's thinking up. You do realize that your children, hey, free, um, your children need you out here. Happy New Year, Celeste. They need you to be out here helping them take that next step, going to that next level. And I don't think everybody takes that as seriously as early as they should. I put up I guess it's a meme. I guess what I put up are memes. I don't know. They're really just scribes that I think of, and I just like to use that emoji that really doesn't look like me, but they did the best they could. Talking about the percentages, it's a 0.0001% chance that your child will become a professional athlete. Now, whether that be a major league baseball player, a major professional football player, professional basketball player, in the NBA, in the MLB. I know that there's other professional sports leagues and things like that, but by far not as lucrative, and you don't have the longevity a lot of times with them. Um, but looking at from my perspective, doing what I do when I'm speaking from a black man's perspective, and I look at 40 million black Americans out there, and there's about 4,000 professional athlete jobs. That's a 0.0001% chance of your child becoming that. Your child may be that. I'm not saying that your child won't be that, but where your child probably has much more of an opportunity is looking at vocational work. And back in the day when we talked about vocational work, I knew a lot of people who had shop class. I knew a lot of people who had, the mechanics classes. There was like a wing that, that all that stuff happened down. And frankly, out of 4 years, 3 years of high school, I only had one class in there. And in junior high school, I think I took two shop classes. And I regret probably should be. I've learned some things over the years. I've learned many more things as an adult than I learned as a youth. And I probably wouldn't have went into some of the professions um, that that I have learned the things in. But it's always good to know when things break that you might not be able to fix it, but you might be able to put a band-aid on it until you can get somebody who can fix it. So that's something that I look at. But what I'm doing now, uh, if I'm going to say something about something else, I got to double down on it, and I've got to talk more into what it is. And when you think about vocation, you think about machinists, you think about pipe fitting, plumbing, welding, electricians, and those are the quintessential jobs that people talk about when it is uh, considered vocational work, trade school, things like that. It's generally something where a lot of people think that you have to have a tool belt, and it's quite the contrary. And I know a lot of people don't dig this deep into it because that's frankly not their job too, I guess. Unless they're looking into those type of professions, they're not going to dig that deep into it. But what I did, because before I actually made that post, I wanted to really find out what vocational meant, and for me, I'm always about the words. And the crazy thing is, it's part of my title. One of the entries for vocation is life's work. And people, your camera is slightly bouncy. Yeah, because it's actually sitting on my lap, free. I'm actually sitting in my chair. I don't have it on a stand. I've just got it on a computer wedge. So anytime I move, I guess it's going to move. So I'm being kind of lazy sitting in my chair right now. Really just trying to get a hold of a few things, and so I'm trying it out. So if it's bouncing a little bit more, if it's making you nauseous, then I'll send everybody some Dramamine. I don't want to make you seasick watching the video. But yeah, it's life's work. They say that's a calling, a mission, and you go down a few where it says profession, career, different things like that. Those types of things people don't look at past the jobs that I talked about. But then when I got into it, I didn't realize that nursing aides, certified nursing assistants, licensed practitioner nurses, all the way to RNs, registered nurses, dental hygienists, dental assistants, phlebotomists, radiologists, lab techs, veterinarian assistants, vet techs. These are all considered vocational jobs. Firefighters, paramedics, police officers, CPR and first aid instructors. Those are all vocational jobs, not just a mechanic, not just a diesel technician. When you dig deeper into it, you've got prep cooks, sous cooks, pastry chefs, line cooks. I mean, you can virtually run a kitchen with vocational training. And what you definitely find with vocational training, vocational schools, it's about a quarter of what you're going to pay to go to a four-year institution. And you're not going to go there as long as you would a four-year institution. Because that was one of my biggest issues with college, was that the things that I wanted to study, because I wanted to study communications and I wanted to deal with broadcasting and things like that when I left high school, but they were going to make me take all these prereqs and I was going to have to go through all this stuff before I really got into the nitty gritty. Several years later, I went to broadcasting school and I was able to jump in feet first, and it was ridiculous. I knew I wasn't really cut out for college, but I was going to try it. And did I know I was going to go to broadcasting school 8 years later? Absolutely not. Do children have a chance to go to school 8 years out of high school and actually channel a career that they really want to get into? Absolutely not. Most people, if after your first couple of years out of high school, your parents are usually out, usually on your own. Then you're trying to figure out, am I going to get some financial aid? Am I going to have enough money for these classes and this, that, and the other? And there's a lot of things get in the way, raising kids, you getting married, relationships, whatever. You don't go that route, you don't go the route. And I don't like to see people look at vocational jobs as a last ditch effort thing, because really these are some jobs that are primary professions. When I talked about, coding, I think that every child needs to be going through some type of coding classes now, because we're embarking on everything being automated within a couple years. Everything's going to be automated in a few years. And if you don't know how to work with computers, and I'm talking about work with them front to back, being able to basically, if something happens on your terminal on a minor level, you should be able to repair that. Or if you need to upgrade something, you should be able to do that. Somebody else isn't going to be there to come in and repair that for you. That's going to be your whole terminal. You're going to have to know everything about it, ins and outs and whatever. And that's not looked at right now from the Black community the same way that it's looked at in these other communities. I mean, Asians and Indians and Arabs and other people that are deep in, computers and coding and things like that, they're not taking on these professions because nobody else wants them. They're taking on these professions because everybody else needs them. See, that's the thing. You got to figure out whether you want to be viable, valuable, or you just want to be outcast. And that's what's going to happen. You could possibly be outcast here in a couple years if you only know how to work with your hands. Okay? If you only know how to work with your hands, you're probably going to be considered a relic within 5 to 7 years. You've got to be able to get to your point of working with computers and not being scared to try to upgrade, try to do this, try to do that. I mean, I used to be terrified when something would say I needed to upgrade. I would always call somebody. I would always, oh man, it said I need to do this, I need to do that. I'm not scared anymore. Or just like editing, I was not a really good editor. I'm still not a very good editor. But when I have to break a clip down from an hour and 10 minutes to 10 minutes, and just find little things about it, I can do that now with confidence because just trial and error, and it's just by making the effort. But we're not taught that, we're not taught those things. We're not taught to go down those roads because, frankly, vocational work was always looked at as somebody who might even have a diminished capacity. Like he's not going to be able to function, at a collegiate level. So we send them down this path. And that's why I say there's still a college track in high school, and then there is a general track in high school. And if they send your kid down that general track in high school, they're going to give him the classes or her the classes to graduate with. But as far as moving on and going to a collegiate level, that's not going to be good. What they're going to have to do is they're going to have to take a bunch of prereqs right at the beginning of school. And then their first college year is going to be a whole bunch of redundancy from high school to get them to the next level. Whereas if you're on a college track, you're taking college prep courses and you're getting a lot of that they call it prerequisite. I call it pre-bullshit. You're getting it out of the way so you can really dig into the profession that you're seeking once you do get into school. And we don't learn about those AC and AP classes a lot of times because that's not where a lot of our families came from. And then it goes all the way back. I was talking to Ray about this. This is why so many grandfathers and great grandfathers, they didn't know how to read because at one time it was a actual crime for a black man, a black woman, a black child to be able to know how to read. So a lot of our elderly people, a lot of them have passed on now, but they didn't know how to read. And it wasn't because they didn't like education, they didn't believe in education, but it was a fear. It was a fear. Their lives had been threatened, if they had learned how to read back in history. And then when it became time to where reading, writing, counting, spelling, everything was all viable, we needed to be a viable thing for us, they were too old. The younger people learned, but the older people didn't. You often saw younger people helping older people sound out words because the younger people were going through school and the older people just didn't know. The one thing that old people did know how to do was they knew how to read the Bible. They knew how to read the Bible, but they didn't know how to read anything else. They couldn't solve story problems in a math book, but they could read the Bible. And that was good. That was okay. That because the Bible wasn't dangerous at that point. Not nearly as dangerous as it is today. What's up? Oh, how you doing? How's my baby? Are you teaching my baby today? She in there eating a lot? This was a crazy weekend for us. We didn't have Lulu for the first time in months, and it's probably like 7 months, I believe. She was the first time that she wasn't at the house, and so it was kind of unique. There was no hollering and screaming and new words coming out of somebody's mouth, and we didn't have all the toys all over, and there was no grits and grooves. I feel like I need to go back and put on a throwback grits and grooves just to kind of make up for the fact that we didn't have grits and grooves this weekend. So I didn't even feel like making breakfast this weekend. It was just crazy. Hell, my first meal yesterday was tacos, just the way it is. So, but I look at a lot of this, people that have skills, and genuine love for things. Sometimes they don't go for it because they think they have to go through that 4-year college institution thing, whereas they could go through vocational training, spend a quarter of the money, spend a quarter of the time, and go even deeper with that. I talk a lot about restorative justice and reparative justice. I think the biggest thing for us is schooling. If schooling were to come about and you were able to go to school and not have to pay a dime for it, would you take the opportunity to learn a profession? Would you learn a profession? It's where the women houses. It totally is, Celeste. I'm trying to tell you, it totally is. It's just crazy. I mean, you miss a 2-footer when they're not there. When they're there, they drive you crazy. But when the 2-footer ain't there, then you miss them. But yeah, I think that, if you have the opportunity, if somebody said, you know what, if you qualify, you score out and you qualify and you can get into this school and it was paid for, it was taken care of, would you do it? I mean, I see a lot of men that are in their 30s and their 40s going through trade schools. And it's unfortunate that they've had to wait this long because they probably had to work another job to get their weight up so they could pay for it. Whereas this is a profession that they've liked and been a part of, probably been what we call a shade tree for many years, and then they want to go get their certifications and things like that. They didn't have the money. Well, if they had the opportunity to go to school earlier, they might be able to be into a career 5 to 10 years earlier. you know we shouldn't always have to have our backs put up against the wall before we have to make career decisions. We should be able to make career decisions truthfully right out of high school. Some people know what they want to do right out of high school, but the revenue might not be there, the opportunities might not be there. And with vocational training, you can do those things and make those things a lot easier for you. So look at you. I know, I know you miss your grands too, Free. It's crazy, man, when them kids ain't there. Them kids ain't there. So, you know, um, I just need people to get to a point where if their children are entering high school, they really need to start talking to them about what they want to do. I know a lot of kids have aspirations to be athletes, and some have aspirations to be professional musicians and singers and dancers and all that stuff. And I get that. But, coming from the perspective that which I come from, those opportunities are not always granted out here. Like I said, if we had our stake in this country at where they say we're about 14% of the population, if we had 14% of the opportunities, then I wouldn't be making videos like this. But frankly, we don't have 14% of the opportunities, and then I'm looked at, by some people, oh, you're complaining, you're just begging, you're just this and you're just that. Well, they don't know their history. They don't know American history, and they don't understand the oppression. See, I don't just harp on the 246 years of free labor that the country's gotten. I harp on more of the 155 years of oppression that they've held us back since we've been supposedly freed. And people don't want to talk about those years, and they don't want to talk about those decades and see that held us back. And when you hold somebody back for 10 years, that's one thing. But you hold somebody back for 100 years, that's another thing. But when you hold somebody back for 100.5 years, that's another thing. 155 years is detrimental. And we were just talking about on the phone, I was talking to my buddy Kenny, and he said, we figured out about 25 years is what they consider a generation. 25 years. So 25 times 4 is 100, and then you got another 2. So you've got 6 generations of oppression for Black Americans since slavery. Okay? And then you take on before slavery had ended, what is that? That's 8, that's 10 generations. 10 generations. So you've got 16 generations. 16. You think about it. If everybody had been held back 16 generations, had been oppressed, had been brutalized. I mean, we weren't able to have jobs. We weren't able to read, write, spell, nothing. We weren't a part of the political process. Isn't it crazy how they want to get out and get the black vote and get the black vote and get the black vote and get the black vote, but at one time they wouldn't even allow us to vote? See, if we weren't necessary, they wouldn't come for us on any level. But we're necessary. And the way I see it, if we're going to be necessary, then we need our stake. See, it's not a handout, it's repayment, it's redress, it's recompense. But see, a lot of people think, oh, you just begging, you just this and you just that. And it's unfortunate. It's truly unfortunate that they think that way. But see, I know history. I know history enough to know that if we had had our fair share, a lot of people wouldn't be working today. If we had got our just due, and I'm saying 246 years of slavery, okay, we put y'all ahead. What is that? 10 generations. We gave y'all a 10-generation head start. And we still, 20 years outside of slavery, had our own schools, had our own post offices, had our own banks, had our own doctor's offices. 20 years out of slavery. Just imagine if they had just left us the fuck alone And we could have did what the fuck we wanted to in this country, and we could have got loans, and we could have got homes, and we could have went to the schools we wanted to, and we'd have got jobs, we'd have got government contracts, just like everybody else did. Where would we be? We'd have put a lot of people out of work. There would have been a lot of people who wouldn't have came to America. See, a lot of people came to America seeking a better life because there were opportunities. But see, if we had been able to stand up the way we needed to stand up, a lot of people would have shut that down. We'd have shut a lot of that down. We'd have kept immigration at a low, you know, and people that want to come over here seeking a better life, I have no problem with it. Where I have a problem with is when somebody comes over here seeking a better life and they want to call Black Americans lazy. They want to call us shiftless. They say we don't work hard enough. Well, how hard did you have to work to flee your country that you left, that you couldn't cut it at, that you was a bottom feeder at? How hard did you have to work? See, don't tell me what we haven't done over here when you fled where you were from. Thank you. We certainly would not be in the minority or the bottom. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And see, when I say that we're a bottom caste, when I say, you know, because I don't really use the minority term anymore, but when I say that we're a bottom caste, it's only by statistics. We are indeed not a bottom caste faction of people, but where we are statistically, where we are socioeconomically, we are a bottom caste. Anytime that a country will allow someone to come into this country with no ID, with no paperwork, and get a job and get a driver's license, and then try to fast track them to citizenship, the first thing they did was they committed a crime because they came into the country illegally. But then you, instead of you saying, you know what, we're gonna get your paperwork right and do all this and have you go through all this protocol. No, you want to fast track them to citizenship. You want to fast track them to the American dream. I have a problem with that. Not with the individual, with the system. And the system that's in play right now, obviously the president-elect Joe Biden and vice president-elect Kamala Harris have both said that they want to fast track Latinos into citizenship. And when they fast track Latinos into citizenship, they are basically, well, it's not even so much Latinos, it's just any immigrant. They want to fast track people because they want to try to get them in on the side of where they think that they're going to hold their own with Democrats, you know, and putting Democrats in office and things like that. And what they need to figure out is y'all doing all this work, but still 35% of Latinos voted for Trump. Somebody who was trying to kick them out of the country, somebody who was trying to build a wall, somebody who talked about them and called them rapists and murderers and drug dealers. They still voted for him at a 1 out of 3 clip. Then you had Asians in South Florida. They was miles and miles and miles and miles of Trump. See, you've got to fix your system before you start trying to bring in people. And my problem with fast tracking somebody, how do you know they have a true allegiance to America? How do you know they just don't want to come over here and do what they've been doing for the last several years, making the money and sending it back home? See, that's the thing. Are you coming over here to make your money and live over here? Or are you coming back? Or are you coming over here to make the money, the American dollar, and then sending it back to your native territory? See, that's where I got a problem with. And there's documentation of that. You know, they ain't arguing about that $15 an hour. They think that $15 an hour might be a good thing because that $15 an hour is about 20 times what they making over at home. So they'll take that $15 an hour and send it back and live like kings and queens in their native land. Whereas $15 an hour, we all know over here ain't enough to raise a family. Okay, so we've got to change the system before we start worrying about changing the people around. So they're just trying to change the people around, trying to flatten blackness, bring in immigrants, and we can replace these people. But you can't replace 40 million Black Americans. I don't give a fuck what you do. Okay, you just can't do it. What'd you say, Free? Fast tracking the reparation Black belt. Absolutely, absolutely. See. They can do what they want to do. We've seen them print money at the drop of a hat with stimulus packages, with COVID bills. We've seen them print money at the drop of a hat. So they can't talk about that. But we also know that reparations, reparative justice, and other initiatives don't just come with the cutting of a check. You've got to change some systems around. You've got to put some other things in play that actually don't cost anybody anything. Okay? Because by saying that a child has to go through 12 years of schooling, and if their grades are up to this certain point, just like they would be if it was a white kid or any other kid, and to qualify for school, they got to have this grade. If you tell a kid, look, you going to college, if you get these grades done and you do these courses and this, that, you going to college. and it's not going to cost you a thing. If you tell a child that, you got that child on point. But if that child's half of their worry is how we going to pay for this, how we going to afford this, we not even eating 3 meals a day, it probably doesn't give them that same, motivation. Even with vocational training, if it's all about the money, most children, they just kind of go away. I was looking at a post earlier, and I know he did it kind of as a joke, but I answered it in a very serious tone. He said, he said, has anybody ever seen a white person with a gap? And see, I came back very, very categorically because I had seen white people with gaps. When I went to Burns Park, I learned early on, white kids' teeth look just like mine. But as we got a little older and they had all their baby teeth come out and their adult teeth come in, they got braces. Whereas you don't see every black child get braces. See, there's a difference. Every black child's family don't have dental. Every black child's family don't have money to get braces. So we grow up with gaps in our teeth, not because our families don't think that that's not something that should go away. We can't afford it. We don't have the insurance. We don't have the benefits. And how can black people not have dental benefits in the United States of America? Once again, we're dealing with oppression. At one time, if black people needed to go see a doctor, we had to go see the same doctor that worked on animals. If black people wanted to go to the dentist, we had to go to the dentist that pulled out the damn horse's teeth. That's what we went and saw. We had to go see a smith. That's what we didn't go see a dentist the way white people did. We had to go see the person, and if we needed a tooth pulled, we had to go see the person who pulled teeth of animals. So when I talk about education should absolutely be free. Healthcare should absolutely be free too. Dental care should absolutely be free too. And then we can figure out for how long. It took 401 years for us to get here. So do we need 401 years of redress? I don't know. Maybe on some things we might just. Maybe on other things, what we say was 16 generations. Maybe we do it for 16 generations. Maybe we have free healthcare and free health benefits for 16 generations. See, when you start putting things like that in play, you start evening up the playing surfaces. So it's no plan for us to be the way we are, except systemically. It was a systemic plan to put us in this place. And for us to get out of this place, it's got to be a systemic plan. Fuck everybody who says, oh man, we don't need the government. We don't need it. Yes, you do. You're only going to do so much without the government. You might only need the government to do so much, but you're only going to do so much. You're only going to get so far. There's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. You've either got some resources, you've got something that's come your way, and it's helped you out, and I guarantee you it was government aided. If you say that you're a self-made millionaire, but you got an SBA loan, I'm going to slap the shit out of you. That's government. That's government. Absolutely. They get the bread and they just move it on back home. So it is what it is, But, we've got to start looking seriously as our kids get into high school and start talking about them. What do they like to do? What are things that they like to do? If your kid has no problem with being around blood, maybe they need to look at something in the health fields. Maybe they're not going to be a doctor. They might not be a doctor, or if they have aspirations to be a doctor, this could be the prelude to them being a doctor. If they like to work with their hands, then what you need to teach them, obviously, you need to teach them and get them into vocational training. But what they also need to learn, because a lot of this stuff is being digitized too, they need to be on that coding. Because a lot of these things that they can figure out with their hands, they can figure out before they even touch anything, just by knowing the dimensions and everything like that. But see, people don't look at it that way. I see people measuring stuff and doing different things before they even touch equipment now, because it's all digital. And that's vocational training. If your children love to cook, if they love to cook, get them in line with possibly being a chef. And if they're not a master chef, maybe they're a sous chef. Maybe they're a prep cook. Maybe they're a line cook. But those are great careers because everybody's going to eat. Ain't nobody going to stop eating around here. As long as you're here, you're going to eat. So, what were some of the other ones that I looked at here? Oh, yeah. And obviously first responders, firemen, paramedics, policemen. I would like to see junior police academies, junior firemen academies. I would like to see those things. I don't want to see a kid who goes through CPR training so they can be a camp counselor. I want to see somebody that goes through that whole program and then maybe they say, you know what, I like saving people. Well, there you go. You might want to be a paramedic, an EMT or something like that, or even going into the full-fledged medical field full time and being right there. You never know what you're going to spur on when you open those conversations up. Every kid's not going to be a professional athlete. Everybody's not going to be a musician or a dancer or a singer or whatever. We got to put realistic shit on the table for our kids. If not, if we're just going to dream as parents and your kids are just going to dream, then you end up looking at them at 21, 23, 25, 27, and they ain't did shit for themselves. See, that's a problem within itself. That's a problem because that's not the child's fault. That started with you. And then once they get grown and they get out here and get to moving around, here comes a baby. Now you're a grandparent and they don't have a viable craft. They don't have a trade. They don't have a skill that they can make some money off of. So now they scrambling. Now they're doing the one job, the two job thing, and now they're not taking care of the baby. And now you taking care of the baby. So the baby's at Big Mama, Big Papa's house. And then you got two jobs trying to raise your kid, but you're not raising your kid because Big Mama, Big Papa. See, I can run this shit all day long. Do it the right way when they're young. Just do it the right way. Probably just me and you in here down free. It looks like seeing that, I'm not cussing and screaming and yelling and bitching about everybody. I'm actually saying something viable. A lot of people drop off, and it's the middle of the day. I also know too, people get on, so I don't really get upset about the views, but I think it's just me and you in here. But this is what I'm saying. Yes, this is what I'm saying when I'm talking about the future. Our future can't just lie on hopes and dreams. We got to get some reality. Hairstylists, nail technicians, barbers, these are viable jobs, viable careers out here, period. But see, people don't look at them a lot of times until it's the last ditch thing. Everything else failed, and then I'm gonna go try to do this. If you ain't doing this, then you try to go sell cars. Well, there's nothing absolutely wrong with selling cars. But then with the car business, the way they started to build the car business and to build managers, they started to send managers to training programs. So if you want to jump into the car business, if you just want to be around cars and that's the way you want to live and die, then you should probably go through those courses before you go to the car dealership and say, hey, look, I've already went through this training. I've already went through that training. I'm certified to do this and I'm certified to do that. So maybe you don't just start and end on the sales floor. You start on the sales floor and you work yourself into a floor manager, to an assistant sales manager, to a sales manager, to a general manager, to a GSM, to a dealer principal. See, you can only be a salesman if that's all they know you know how to do. But see, if you got the skills and you got the paperwork, you can be much more. The first dealership might not take you seriously, but that second and third store will, because you've got the numbers and you've got the skills, and you've got the paperwork. That's it. But don't let your first move be your last move just because you're lacking skills. And that's where we lose out. For the first time you get cut from a football team or a baseball team or a basketball team, your career is probably over. I get it. But if you run all the way through and you become a star, and you think you're going to make it to the professional ranks, like I said, there's 40 million Black Americans out here, and there's only 4,000 available professional athletic jobs in the country. So if you want to take a chance on that odd versus maybe you do what you need to do, work hard there, and then develop skills along the way, because if the professional career doesn't work out, or even if it does work out, you still got to live the rest of your life. And that's what you got to do. But yeah, there's a lot of viability out here with vocational work. And it's not always just the welder. It's just not always somebody with a tool belt. Vocational work can be anything. That's why it's called life's work. It is career work, but see, people look at it one way. They say, oh, this is the last ditch thing. This is, I got to put all my stake into it. No, do it early. Get the trade, get the skill under your belt. And then you go off and do some other things, but you have that to fall back on. I said a couple of days ago, I know people that work at grocery stores they're college graduates, grocery stores, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with working in a grocery store. Now they're managers and they make a decent wage, but that college degree does not say grocery store management or grocer man. They didn't go to college for that. They went to college for something else, but maybe that field got flooded. Maybe that field got debunked. Who knows? Sometimes you go into a field and go to college and get that degree, and there's just not the jobs out there. And if the jobs just aren't, if the jobs aren't there, if the jobs aren't there, then you've got to do something. You've got to do something else, you know, and then you can take maybe some of those skills that you did learn. And hey, it's kind of hard not to hire somebody with a college degree, because what do they always look for? They look for college graduates. Because I think the main reason that anybody looks for a college graduate is they say you went through the rigors. You know, you knew how to go through the course. You knew how to do this. You knew how to do all of that. But see, the biggest problem, you know, with all of that is, what did you really acquire? Because I know people that sat through 4 years of school and they got a college degree and they absolutely are dumb as a rock. But professional, vocational skills, for me, I think you're going to utilize those skills a lot quicker than you would use a degree. Say you got a degree in human resources. Nothing wrong with having a college degree in human resources, but that is a pretty localized field. And what can you do in human resources? You know, I mean, are you trying to be the human resource worker? Are you trying to be the human resource director? And how many human resource directors does a company generally have? One. You may find two if it's a large company, but most companies have one human resource director. So once again, you're putting in that 1 in a million type situation, just like athletics. Go into a field where you could be viable damn near in every company that you would apply for. And that's why I say coding and different things like that. That puts you in a place where they can't pigeonhole you. You can go out and seek what you want to seek. A lot of people don't get it. A lot of people don't get it. But, you know, I wasn't going to be in here all day. The main thing was I wanted to get this off, and I kind of felt like I cheated people. I said I was going to do a live every day, so I might end up doing 2 today to kind of catch up. But, you know, I need to get on here and say something for what we're trying to get out here. And much love to you, Free. I appreciate the work that you're putting in. We've got a lot of things happening this week. We're going to be talking to State Senator Jeff Irwin this week. We've already got tentatively scheduled the new Washtenaw County prosecuting attorney, Mr. Eli Savitt. We're going to be talking to him, I believe, sometime next week. I don't actually know the actual schedule, so I don't keep up with the stuff. I'm just this. This is what I'm doing. I got other people putting everything else in place. So when we start getting those dates and times and things in order, I know we should be airing the Senator Irwin interview on Wednesday, just to make sure that everything is right. We're probably going to get that in early in the day and then air it Wednesday evening. So that will be one thing. And then, you know, we're looking to talk to people in power. You know, I learned a lot about, you know, things from the election cycles, you know, this past fall. And I learned that there's absolutely no reason for me to just be out here just talking to anybody. I need to talk to people in power. You know, I've been asked several times over the last few months about running for offices. I'm not running for shit. And I told y'all I'm never going to allow that to happen. I just recently had a colonoscopy, and that 7-8 minutes that they spent in there is all I'm gonna give anybody. Ain't nobody going in my ass unjustifiably. So, you know, that's what has to happen for you to be a politician out here. And I know my life ain't perfect. I know I haven't lived perfectly, and I'm not giving anybody something from 25 years ago that they can go look at and be like, oh, you did this, talking about 2021. So that's useless for me. But what I can do is I can put the people that are in power on point, make sure that they know that these are our needs, because elections come up. And if they want the people that have been voting them in office to continue to vote them in office, they've got to speak to the people. They've got to speak for the people. So that's just what we do. As far as just randomly talking to individuals, you know, just for any old reason. There ain't nothing wrong with having a good time, you know, when we're out here doing some things. But if we're going to use our platforms and use our voices the right way, we need to be talking about the right things. And I'm going to continue to talk about recompense, and I'm going to continue to talk about redress for Black Americans, American Descendants of Slavery, American Descendants of Freedmen. I don't care if people think that I'm complaining or I'm bitching or I'm moaning and, you know, this, that, and the other, because I didn't say that Black people were helpless. I've been told, you know, that that's the way people think about what I'm saying. I don't give a fuck about what people think. I've never said that Black people are helpless. We are obviously not helpless. We are obviously not hopeless. But what we are is we are in a caste system. And what we need to do is we need to get up out of that caste system. And that's not going to come by me taking money from my neighbor, by me taking money from my neighbor. No, that comes from the United States government. Okay. Just like the government has systemically oppressed us, they can systemically redress us. And that's just the way it is. As far as anybody else coming to me, oh, you don't need this, you don't need that. See, I have to understand their level of thinking. Okay. And when I call people out for about having white privilege, well, just prove to me how I have white privilege. I don't need to prove to you. You live it. If you're white, you are privileged. Now, you might not be wealthy. You might not be rich. You could be dead ass broke. But I guarantee you, you shave it up and clean it up and put a suit on, and I do the same thing, you are going to get a job twice as fast as I would, with all things being equal. That's white privilege. It's set in stone. It's the way it is. And until those things change, we'll always be where we are. See, that's why I don't blame the person that's right next to me. I can't blame them. I can't blame my friends that are white. They've done nothing to me. Okay. What I do is I blame the system. Now, their great grandfather and their great grandmother, they might have been my enemy, but they're not my enemy. I can't blame them. But see, a lot of people are where they like to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I just can't do that. That's not logical speaking. So I'm going to continue to talk to people that are in power. We're going to continue to voice our needs and anything anybody wants to say, because I know there's a lot of people out here that want to say things to people, but they don't have the guts to. Or I wouldn't say guts to or courage to. They're in a position. Send me if you got a question that you want me to ask a particular person. If I say I want to be talking to somebody, send me the question. I have no problem with asking the question. That's what my job is out here. I am the voice to do this. So I have no problem with that. And any naysayers out there, we just let them be. We just let them dwell. We're not going to argue about what we need, what's necessary, this, that, and the other. And we're definitely not going to argue with people who try to tell us, oh, well, if you guys got this, you should be good. Or you got, no. You're not going to be the sons and the daughters and the grandsons and the granddaughters of oppressors and then tell me how to make life better for me. You're not going to do that. And that's just the way I stand. So it is what it is. But free, I'm gonna get on up out of here. Somebody else crept in here, so I'm not sure exactly who it is. But I'm gonna get on up out of here, and maybe we'll get another live off a little later. Got some things got to get handled out here, because what he say? I'm living off the government's tit, so I guess I gotta go get me some titties. He said I'm living off the government's tit, so I guess I gotta go get me some titty milk right now. And maybe we'll get back on here a little later. And he knows who that's to. I ain't gonna say his name on my broadcast, because I'm gonna definitely put it in that page. I'm gonna definitely put it in that room. So when they see it, they never really listen to the videos. So I'll make sure that they understand that that if I am living off the government's tit, I'm out here getting titty milk. So we'll do what we got to do. But for anybody that watches this clip, hopefully it helps you. If it doesn't help you, then I get it and I understand. I'm not sure exactly how you stood here for 42 minutes and didn't get any help from it, but you need to be talking to your children. And some of you need to be talking to your grandchildren about vocational training. And I'm not just talking about being a welder, a pipe fitter, a plumber, or a mechanic. I'm talking about some viable jobs out here, some viable careers that they can be looking towards before it's too late or before their back's up against the wall. Because a lot of people don't work well with pressure. I work well with pressure. Some people don't work well with pressure. And you put a youngin up back up against the wall nowadays, they tend to do stupid stuff. You put my back up against the wall, then I tend to come out with a result, because I learn differently. Hell, I mean, I know how to count, without a calculator. I know how to write in cursive, and I know how to do things that a lot of these youngins don't know how to do. So we got to help them along a little bit differently than we were helped along. So y'all be good, and we'll definitely talk again. One love.